Today's lesson is 1.3. It's about rational numbers. So remember, rational numbers simply just means we're going to be using fractions and decimals instead of integers. Do you guys remember what an integer is? It's a positive or negative whole number. Very good. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is how to use a number line to find the sum. Before you do anything, we will always be starting at a 0, okay? So I'm going to do this problem down here. Negative 1/7 plus 3/7. So if I start at the 0 and I'm going to negative 1/7, should I go to the left or should I go to the right for negative 1/7? To the left, okay? So I'm coming right here and you can see I have landed on the negative 1/7. Now it says down here I'm going to be going plus 3/7. If I'm going plus 3/7, do you think I need to go to the right or to the left? I have to go to the right because you can see all these numbers over here on the right. That's going in a positive direction. So now I'm simply going to start where I was at with that negative 1/7, and I am adding 3/7. So I am adding 1, 2, 3/7. Where did I end up? I ended up on the 2/7. So the correct answer for negative 1/7 plus 3/7 is 2/7. All right, now I'm going to use the same number line, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Let's go on to the next one. It says 1/7 minus 4/7. If you remember, I said we're always going to start at the 0. Now I want to go to 1/7. Should I go to the right of 0 or to the left? I'm going to go to the right, which brings me here, and I landed on the 1/7. Now it says I have to go minus 4/7. If I am subtracting 4/7, is that a positive or a negative?
Negative.
It's a negative because minus means negative. We're taking it away. So now, am I going to go left or right from this point?
Left.
I am going to go left because I'm going in the negative direction. So let's count 4/7. 1, 2, 3, 4/7. Where did I end up? Negative 3/7. So the correct answer is negative 3/7. I want you guys to try to do problem C on your own. Okay, as I just walked around and I looked at what you guys had, I saw a few different answers. Raise your hand if you got 0. Okay, I had seen a few people with a 0. Raise your hand if you got negative 4/7. Okay, who got something different than that? What'd you get? Negative 2/7. Did anyone else get that? All right. So we've got people with those 3 different answers. Let's check this out. Remember, whenever I'm doing this on a number line, where should I start? What number? 0. Let's start at the 0, okay? So here I am at 0. The first thing it says to do is go negative 2/7. Is that going to the left or the right? Okay, so we're going to go to the left, 1/7, 2/7. How many of you got at least this far on your number line? This is the next part where it got a little bit tricky. Next up, what does it say to do? Subtract 2/7 or negative 2/7. Which direction is negative? To the left or the right? To the left. So I'm going to start from right here and go 1, 2/7. And where did I end up? Negative 4/7. So the correct answer for that one is negative 4/7. All right, so for the next section, you can see it is written in red, so you do want to go ahead and write it in red. These are the rules that we learned last Friday for our lesson about how to add integers. Whenever we're adding rational numbers, meaning whenever we add fractions and decimals, we are also going to use the same exact rules. So let's try to remember singing this song that we did from last week. Ready, begin. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. All right, so listen, our first quiz is going to be 1 week from today. It's going to be over all of the lessons in Chapter 1, and this is a rule you want to remember. Whenever you have the same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. Whenever you have different signs, subtract the numbers and take the sign of the larger number. You really want to remember that rule. You also want to remember this rule, so pull out your red pen. We're writing it in red pen because it's very important and you want to remember this. This is super important to remember. In order to be able to add and subtract integers or rational numbers, you want to remember this saying. Say it with me one more time. Ready, begin. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. All right, so we're going to use those 2 rules applying to rational numbers today. There's one more thing I do want to teach you about, eliminating double signs. Sometimes double signs can be really tricky, so I want to explain to you what we can do to eliminate or get rid of a double sign. Whenever solving equations, integers will not be written using the parentheses. So most of the time we're going to be trying to get rid of those parentheses. You need to understand the following rules. Whenever you are adding a negative, it's the same thing as subtracting it. So let's just think about our rules that we talked about from last week. Is this a positive or a negative number? Positive. That's a positive 10. Is this a positive or a negative? That's a negative. If I have different signs, one positive, one negative, what do I have to do to those numbers? Subtract. So class, what is 10 minus 4? 6. Let's put it underneath here. And take the sign of the larger number. What's the larger number? 10, which is a positive or a negative? It is a positive. So my correct answer is 6. Now you will see you guys have a blank right here. And I want to explain to you what we're going to write here. If you notice, there are double signs here. Plus, minus, or positive, negative. You don't want to have double signs. So let me explain something to you. How many of you have been around a negative person before? Someone who complains a lot, okay? The bummer is the negative always wins. They set this tone for the environment and you just feel kind of sad or down and maybe depressed a little when you're around those negative people. Unfortunately, when you are adding a negative or you have a plus minus, the negative sign always wins, which means I can just get rid of that plus sign, okay? So if I got rid of that plus sign, I am simply left with 10 minus 4. Class, what is 10 minus 4? 6. Notice that's the same exact answer that we got whenever I did it this way over here, okay? So that's how you can eliminate a double sign. Let's go over here to this problem. 15 plus negative 5. Do I have the same sign or a different sign? Different. I have different signs. Right here, this would be a positive and this would be a negative. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. So what is 15 minus 5? 10. Take the sign of the larger number? Positive, so my answer is positive 10. Now remember, just like you've got this blank over here in your notes, we are going to eliminate the double sign. If you see right here, I am adding a negative. I have plus minus. Class, who always wins out of a positive or a negative? The negative always wins, so I can get rid of that. And instead, I would write that as simply 15 minus 5. What is 15 minus 5? 10. And once again, you can see we got the same answer as we got before. I do not care which way you want to work it out. If you would rather do it this way, or if you would rather do it this way. Either way is fine with me. All right, now I'm going to talk to you about the next rule, a double negative. Do you guys remember talking about double negative last Friday? Okay, a double negative sign will always equal a positive. So you could see right here I've got a double negative because it says minus a negative, negative, negative. What do I do to those minus the negatives? I turn them into a positive. So remember we talked about putting a monster plus sign there, but you're always going to rewrite it. So instead of saying 5 plus 6, we're just going to rewrite it to make it look normal. What is 5 plus 6? 11. And we'll box the answer in. Go ahead and do the next one on your own. What did you guys get? 20. Good job, because it means the same thing as 10 plus 10, and 10 plus 10 does equal 20. Any questions about how to eliminate double signs? Okay, we're going to use all those rules that we've talked about to help us with this next section. Find the sum and write the fractions in simplest form. Now the rules that we've talked about with integers or with whole numbers are going to be the same as the rules we use for fractions and decimals. So let's just look at this first. Do I have the same sign or the different sign here in problem A? Different sign. Same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract and take. But when dealing with fractions, there's something I have to do before I can add or subtract them. I have to look at the denominator. Guys, do I have a common denominator there? I don't yet. I have one is a 3 and one is a 6. What would the greatest common denominator be between those two numbers? A 6, which means I have to turn this fraction, instead of into thirds, I need to turn it into sixth. How would I get from a 3 to a 6? What do I have to multiply by? 2. I have to multiply by 2. So right here we're going to multiply by 2 because 3 times 2 would equal 6. Now, how many of you have a sibling, a brother or a sister at home? Is it very fair if your mom or dad do something for your sibling and not for you? It's not fair. We don't like that at all. Well, the same thing applies in math rules. The denominator doesn't like it if you do something to the numerator, and the numerator doesn't like it if you don't do the same thing that you did to the denominator. So we have to be fair. If I multiply the bottom by 2, what should I do to the top? Also multiply it by 2. And this is how you get an equivalent fraction. So let's work underneath it. I'm going to keep my negative sign that I had right here. You just drop that down. Now let's find the equivalent fraction. What is 8 times 2? 16. And then what is 3 times 2 for the denominator? 6. Now you can see this is equivalent or equal to negative 8/3. I just turned it into 16/6. Now you can see I had a plus sign here, so I'm going to drop down that plus sign. And then we're also going to drop down our 5/6. Now you can see we have a common denominator and we are ready to begin our problem. Once again, you told me before I have different signs. Same sign, add and keep, different signs, subtract and take. So we are going to subtract the absolute value here. Let's take the biggest number, 16, and subtract the 5. What is 16 minus 5? 11. Now, I'm going to keep the same denominator because I had 16/6 plus 5/6. It is going to be 6th, not 12ths. You don't add those two together. You just keep it as a 6th. Okay? Now, take the sign of the larger number. Was the larger number a negative or a positive? It was a negative, so my correct answer is negative 11/6. We're going to go over to problem B. First things first, we're adding and subtracting fractions. Do I have a common denominator on both fractions? Yes, then this one's going to be just a little bit easier. Woohoo! All right. Do you see any double signs? As do I. Look at this right here. Plus, minus. Who always wins out of plus, minus? Negative. The negative always wins. So I can basically get rid of this and I can drop it down. I have negative 1/2 minus 3/2. Remember, every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Same sign or different sign? I've got the same sign, add and keep. So we're going to add the numbers and keep the sign. What is 1/2 plus 3/2? 4. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4/2. Same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. Were these positive or were these negative? These were negative, so I've got negative 4/2. Now this can be reduced. There's a number that can go into a 4 that can also go into a 2. What number can go into both of them? A 2. Now you could do this in your head if you know how to mentally do it. If you don't know how to mentally do it, you could do it right here on paper with us. So as you know, this is a negative, so I've got to keep my negative. But let's figure this out. Class, what's 4 divided by 2? 2. And what is 2 divided by 2? 1. Is there any way to reduce or simplify negative 2 over 1? What could I do? I could just simply get rid of this 1 at the bottom, and what am I left with? A negative 2. So my final answer is negative 2. All right, the next one has a different kind of problem. Do you guys see what this is? That's called a mixed number, okay? Do you remember how to turn that into an improper fraction? Because I'd rather have an improper fraction than have a mixed number. What should I do? Close. We are going to multiply the bottom number by this number. Class, what's 8 times 1? 8. So all I did was multiply that. And then you have to add that. What's 8 plus 3? 11. Okay, so now instead I'm going to keep my negative. Negative 11/8. Plus, I'm going to drop down my 5/4. Remember, when adding and subtracting a fraction, I always have to have a common denominator. What is my common denominator for those? An 8. So let's figure out how to turn this 4 into an 8. What do I have to multiply by? A 2. I have to be fair, do it to the top and the bottom. All right, so now working underneath it, I've got negative 11/8 plus, what is my new fraction right here? 10 over 8. Now we are ready to work the problem like we were doing before. Do I have a same sign or different sign here? Different sign. It's a negative 11/8 and a positive 10/8 because remember, every number has a sign and that sign is directly in front of that number. If I have different signs, what do I have to do? I'm going to subtract them. What would my answer be, class? Negative 1/8 is correct because 11 minus 10 is 1. Take the sign of the larger number, the larger absolute value was the negative 11/8. So my correct answer is negative 1/8. Moving on to the next one, Rodney. Is there any way that I can turn this 4 into a fraction? Yes, what should I do? Okay, I'm going to put it over a 1. Now, Rodney, do I have the same denominator? I do not. How do I turn that 1 into a 2? Okay, we're going to multiply by 2 on both the top and the bottom. And what will this new fraction be? Instead of 4 over 1, I'm going to have, what is 4 times 2? 8. So I'm going to have 8 over 2. Okay, now I've got double signs. Rodney, who always wins out of plus minus? Okay, the negative is going to win, so I can basically get rid of this, and I'm just going to do minus 7/2. Now this looks like a normal kind of fraction we would have. 8/2 minus 7/2 equals, think about it, what's 8 minus 7? 1, so it's just going to equal 1/2, all right? If you wanted to, you could see this is a positive, this is a negative. We're going to subtract them, or you could just look at it as 8 minus 7 equals 1, and halves, we're going to do it as 1/2. The next few problems now we're going to be dealing with decimals. We're using the same exact kind of rules. First things first, Hope, I've got double signs right here. Who will always win? The negative sign is always going to win, okay? So now I can rewrite this as 0.75 minus 1.5. Now, Hope, do I have the same sign or different signs? Same signs. We're going to add the numbers and keep the sign. Now, if you remember from elementary school, you have to make sure you line up your decimal points. So when I have this, I've got 1.5. Guys, what can I put right there just to kind of be a placeholder? All right, let's stick a 0 right there. So she had told me, same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. Go ahead and add it together. What do you get when you add it together? All right, very good. We do get 2.25. So I'm going to put my final answer over here. Now remember, add the numbers, keep the sign. Is that a positive or a negative answer? Look, keep the sign. Those are negative, so we're going to keep that negative sign, and the answer is negative 2.25. Moving on, let's come over here to problem F. Thomas, do I have the same sign or a different sign? Different sign, so what do I have to do? Subtract and take. What is the larger absolute value? 5.35 or 4? Larger absolute value. 5.35. So I'm going to take that larger absolute value and put it on top. And now I'm going to subtract the 4. Now if you remember with a 4, the decimal point comes after it. So we're going to put it right here, 4 point. And what can I put in the blank right there? Let's put 2 zeros. Thomas, go ahead and subtract it for us and let us know what you get. Very good. He got 1.35. Now, same sign, add and keep, different sign, which we had, subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So is my answer positive or negative? It's going to be negative because this one was the larger number and that was negative. So the answer is negative 1.35. Let's go on to the next one. I've got double signs here. Gabe, who wins, the positive or the negative? The negative, so I'm going to eliminate that and get rid of it, and I've got negative 3.3 minus 2.7. Gabe, do I have the same sign or different sign? Same sign, add and keep. So remember, you're going to use this over here. As you can see in class, we are not using our calculators, which means it is not a calculator chapter. So when we have our quiz coming up on Monday, we're not using calculators for this chapter. He is adding them together. And what do you get when you added them, Gabe?
6.
Okay, very good. It comes out as a 6.0, but notice he didn't say anything about this 0.0 because he just got rid of that. And is our answer positive or negative?
Positive.
Okay, why is it positive? It is negative. Remember, same sign, add the numbers, and keep the sign. So our answer is going to be -6. Next up, 1.65 plus -0.9. We're going to rewrite it, and remember with those double signs, we're going to get rid of the positive. That's our rule that we learned about eliminating double signs, minus 0.9. All right, same sign or different sign? Different signs. This is a positive, this is a negative. We're going to subtract them. Do I need to line up my decimal points? Yes. So minus 0.9. Let's go ahead and put a placeholder of a 0 right there in the blank. And I want you guys to subtract it. Class, what did you guys get?
0.75.
Very good, 0.75. And is that answer positive or negative? It is going to be positive because we took the sign of the larger number, and that was a positive. For this next one, we are doing modeling real life. Remember the additive inverse rule. Once again, you're using your red pen to fill that in because this is important. Who remembers what the word inverse means? All right, very good. It means the opposite, okay? So if you remember, we talked about this before. If I have plus 10 minus 10, what does that equal? 0. A number in its opposite always equals 0. What about if I had -5 plus 5? What does that equal? 0. How about 30 plus -30? 0, okay? So anytime you have a number in its opposite, it always equals 0. Let's look at this. This list shows 4 account transactions for someone's bank account. Find the change in the account balance. So what I could do, I don't want you to write this down, but what I could do is -$40 for this first one, add $50 for the second one, add $75 for the third one, and minus $50 for that fourth one. But there's something easier that I can do. Remember, properties are shortcuts that help us. Instead, I can use my additive inverse, and there is something over here that I could get rid of. Do you guys see any opposite numbers in there? Which ones are opposites here in this box? 50 and -50. Guess what I can do with those? Cancel them out. Those equal 0, and now I don't even have to use those numbers. So additive inverse rule or additive inverse property helps me to see I can just cancel out when a number and its opposite are there. So now all I'm left with is -$40 and positive $75. That looks much easier than that long problem I had with 4 numbers. I want you guys to try to figure out how much money is now in this person's balance if they had -$40 and positive $75. Okay, so let's look at this, guys. Do I have the same sign or a different sign? Different sign, subtract and take. So we are going to be taking $75 and subtracting $40. Take the sign of the larger number. What was the larger number? A positive. So my answer is positive $35. Listen, as I walked around, I saw a lot of people who did this. Please do not put your dollar sign at the end. The dollar sign goes at the beginning. So you want to go ahead and make sure it's positive $35 is how much they have left in their bank account. All right, for this next section, we've got a think, pair, share, where we're going to try to add these together. So the think, pair, share section a lot of times is a great review off what we did. Now in class, your notes somehow got messed up. What I want you to do is flip to the very next page, and up at the top, just go ahead and write 1.3 when you see the section that looks like this. First thing you got to do is always have a common denominator. Excellent. What should my common denominator be? A 10. In order to do that, I've got to multiply by 2 on top and on bottom. So now underneath it, I'm going to have -7/10 plus, what will that equivalent fraction be? 2/10. So you're just taking that and putting it right there underneath it, 2/10. Ariana, what did you get? Excellent. She got -5/10. Class, can that be reduced at all? Yes. What goes into a 5 that also goes into a 10? A 5. Okay, so if you want, you can show me the work right here. If you know how to do this in your head, you do not have to write it out. What would the answer be? -1/2. All right, let's go on to the next one. Does this have a common denominator? Not yet. Now, what would my common denominator be between a 4 and a 3? A 12. So I've got to do a little extra work on this one. I'm going to be multiplying this by a 3, and I will be multiplying this by a, not a 3, a 4, because we're trying to get it to turn into a 12. All right, Alexis, what would that -3/4 be turned into? -9/12. Excellent. And remember, I've got plus a minus. Who always wins, class? The negative or the minus. So we're going to go ahead and bring down the minus. And Alexis, what would 4/12 be turned into? Oh, sorry, 1/3 would be turned into -4/12. Sorry about that. All right, now what was your answer? Okay, here's what I want you to remember. Same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. Chloe, what'd you get?
I got 13/12.
Very good. We've got 13/12, and then we're going to keep the sign. What sign did we have there? A negative. Okay, and for today, it is okay if you just leave it like this. You don't have to turn it into a mixed number. Okay, as I walked around, I saw a lot of people recognize we have to subtract and take. And when you did that, what'd you get, guys?
1.7.
1.7, and that is correct. It is a positive. Okay, so that's basically what you need to know today for 1.3. I want you to go ahead and pull out a piece of paper. And this is our homework assignment for tonight. Remember, for your homework, you must do it on scratch paper, on a notebook paper, and you also need to make sure that you submit this assignment to Big Ideas Math in order to get full credit for your homework tonight. Okay, so remember when you're labeling your paper correctly, you're always going to put that assignment right there on the top. If you remember, you also want to put your date up here. All right, your first and last name will go up there on the top right. Your class goes next. So if you're in third hour, you're math 3. If you're in first hour, you're math 1. And then you're going to go ahead and put your classroom number. If you are just doing this on your Big Ideas Math, either on the website or on your phone, you are allowed to just go ahead and label it problems number 1 through 10 if you want. Remember, you're always going to start with the original problem. So our original problem said 5 plus -7. What is 5 plus -7? All right, very good. So our answer is -2. You're going to box that in. Remember how you do your homework now. You're going to skip one line and go ahead and go down to problem number 2. Write the original problem, box in your answer, and show your work. Now remember, 50% of your grade is doing it on notebook paper like this and making sure it's been submitted correctly, okay? And the other 50% is submitting your answers on the Big Ideas Math website.